the meeting to order. Do we need to review Zoom procedures?
No, we're all set.
Okay. All right, and then, so if anyone wants to move approval of the agenda, you want to take up, if you haven't already looked at the agenda.
I'll move to approve.
Great, is there a second?
I'll second.
Great, all those in favor say aye.
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 Great. Okay, so comment from the chair. I'm still really behind after being sick. But I'll do my best to move this meeting along. I haven't really looked at any of the material, I have to admit, but it's great that we're moving stuff along. And then the next item is approval of the Montpelier Downtown Transportation Fund application. I don't know, Josh, if you or Mike want to just briefly talk about that.
Yeah, Josh Strom, Planning Department. As part of the requirements for submission to the Downtown Transportation Fund, we need to have the project put before the Planning Commission to have the chair's signature as well as the legislative body. And the proposal that the city put together worked with Montpelier Live on this proposal, and we are requesting $200,000 to use funds to do streetlight assessments. There's a number of streetlights that are inoperable, specifically since the flood, at least almost 24 throughout the downtown. So a chunk of the funds will be used to do the lighting assessment. Another significant portion of funding will be used to illuminate some additional bridges in the downtown. So right now, the Main Street and the Taylor Street bridges, which both have the holiday seasonal lighting on it, the lighting systems on those two bridges would be converted into year-round use. So the lighting would come off and year-round seasonal lighting would put on those bridges. In addition to two pedestrian bridges, one by the Shaws, and then the one pedestrian bridge downstream from the transit center. That one does have lighting on it, but it's very weak. You can't really see it. So both of those bridges will be illuminated, and then the final bridge would be the Spring Street Bridge. That bridge doesn't have any lighting on it either. And then the final piece of this proposal would be for Public Works to do a pilot test on some new self-compacting trash receptacles downtown. There's two locations that we've identified on State Street that have the highest use. Public Works and Montpelier Live consistently get complaints from businesses, residents about these areas of overflowing trash. Public Works just can't keep up. And so we would like to pilot some new technology in the self-compacting receptacles, which would include both waste and recycling. And so that's the project that we're putting forward. There is a match component that Montpelier Live is putting up, $40,000. And that $40,000 is coming from a federal grant that they were awarded, T-term tourism grant for the bridge project. So the total project cost is about $240,000. And happy to answer any questions, but that's the proposal that we've collaborated on.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
But my number one part of sin is starting us with Saudi waiver. If you did not do, it's like nice.
So
my main problem with it is
we will just need a motion to authorize the chair to sign the grant application.
learn details so I can take that.
Yes, so it's kind of a Kit Kat. I was pretty happy with how the waiver came.
This is Gabe. I move that we authorize the chair to sign that grant application.
I think that would have turned out better. It was just.
All right, Gabe with the motion. Give a second.
Yeah, second.
Aaron,
This is gonna feel hard, I swear I'm not being it. Feels like the pre-makeover version.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
thanks,
Yeah.
Josh.
But
Okay, and then the next is the
ear filling.
moving to approve the required report that Mike sent us. Mike, do you want to make any comments or?
No, I think we went over it pretty well. The only thing that's changed on it since the last time is the fact that the date now says February 18th. Other than that date change, this is in your hands. If you guys have questions, you guys want to make changes. As I said, I did kind of go through this last time we met. It goes through the various required reports. The one piece being that we technically don't need to do the required report, but it does act as a good indication to everybody that we are meeting all the statutory requirements that are required in a city plan. We're going to eventually have to have it regionally approved where they're going to look at these as well. So, but even though it's not required, I've been doing this long enough and had this happen enough where people start to argue that it should have a required report, even though it's an adoption and not a readoption or an amendment. We'll do the report anyways, just to make sure that we don't have to address the question of whether we do or don't need to have that required report. It's all here.
I think
Then the process is we would approve it and then the RPC and DHCD would approve it?
Nobody's going to approve the regional,
Okay.
the required report. The required report is sent when you warn for a planning commission public hearing on the adoption of a plan. In some cases, you have to have a required report. So when you warn the abutting communities, the RPC and DHCA, the Department of Housing and Community Affairs, when you send the notice to them 30 days in advance, you have to include the required report. So you have the required report. If we get through this step, then we'll go to the next step, which would be to decide what date to warn the public hearing for. And then I can get that paperwork all sent out to the required agencies.
bring a snack, like standalone.
Okay, does
thing.
anyone have any questions or comments on the report?
No, I've reviewed a couple times and it's very thorough. And yeah, I don't have any questions or comments, and I think that I'm very comfortable with it being approved and sent out.
I think it looks pretty good too. My only nitpicky thing is I think there might be a typo on page 12 under point 3 in the final sentence, where it says opportunity to grow Montpelier without the negative impacts that make apply to other locations. May mean to say may apply. And then my question on page 13 at the bottom, where it refers to a successful TIF district application from some meeting in 2020. And that's before my time, so I'm just wondering, maybe history lesson, what that TIF district application is referring to.
So that was back. This is referring to a requirement as a part of the readoption report. We have a requirement that says that we have to consider the recommendations of the Regional Planning Commission that they provided as a part of their their reviews. So every couple of years, 5 years, maybe every 5 years, every 4 years, the Regional Planning Commission confirms, that's the legal term, confirms that we have a planning process, which means we have a planning commission, we provide funding, and we're actively working. So some communities may have had a city plan, but if their planning commission has disbanded and they never reset another board, then they would not receive confirmation. Although they have an approved plan, they don't have a confirmed process. So when they back on that date, June 8th, 2020, there was a confirmation visit, and the only finding that they had, and this was really a finding affirming to the fact that we have a planning process, was that the city of Montpelier continues to be actively engaged in the implementation of the municipal plan as demonstrated by the maintenance of the growth center designation and successful TIF district application. So in 2018, maybe, don't quote me on the date, 2018, 2019, we had a TIF district for our downtown that extended most of the downtown and all the way out through to Sabins Pasture. So it was a very large TIF district, and it was to try to include, because you can only have one, and we had two projects. One was to build a parking garage in conjunction with the hotel that was being built, and the second was Sabins Pasture. So we wanted to get both, so we had this large district that connected these two. But the TIF district was primarily being used at the start to fund the construction of the parking garage. And that was reliant on having the new hotel, and that new hotel kind of withdrew its application after COVID hit. So they were losing their shirt. We were getting appealed in court, and they had to pay their legal fees. And so they said, we're losing our shirt on legal fees and everything else. So they withdrew. So we lost that project. And then because of the way TIF is constructed, the residential property holders in town would have been harmed in the reappraisal. So because we had no project going on at the time, we decided to withdraw our TIF approval and decide to come back with a TIF district at a later date. So that's what that's referring to. That successful TIF district is from the study, from the report in 2020, which reflected the fact that we had a TIF, we had a successful TIF district for the downtown.
Cool. All right. Yeah. I mean, I think this looks good to me. So I'm ready to approve it. But anybody else have any comments?
I also agree that it looks thorough. And I think all of the statute requirements were addressed. It's a statute, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
I point out
Ariane, Steve would like to provide some comment.
Okay.
Similar to comments you've heard before, but I'm looking at page 18, which the black and red is actually I think
I don't have a number document where the text you're looking at.
Oh,
you don't have page numbers on yours.
No, I just have like. Oh, thanks.
But it says as a requirement, a utility and facility plan consisting of a map and statement of present and prospective community facilities and public utilities showing existing and proposed educational, recreational, and other public sites, buildings, facilities, including hospitals, libraries, power generating, et cetera. And that is where the Country Club Road plan and infrastructure requirements would be laid out, and it's not in here. You know, there's a vague reference to it up in 3, transportation, saying once we have more specific information and a decision by council to lay out and build a road. But there's a lot of roads and sidewalks and buildings and civic and transportation and sewer needed for Country Club Road just to build housing there, and it's not in here, you know? And it's not in the draft plan elements that I've seen. And I think it's gonna become a larger and larger hurdle as we move through the, you know, efforts to get this plan adopted, that you got the format issues, you got the public participation issues, and you got the truthfulness of this document issues. So I would encourage you to look at it more, scrutinize it more skeptically from in concert with, in cross-referencing the statutes related to growth center, because this alludes to continuing to pursue the growth center, and the growth center has specific requirements in the way of site plan. Mike keeps relying on the draft plan that White and Burke put together, which says all through it, this is just a starting discussion point, and it's not a plan. It's not where you'll end up. And therefore you can't have spec'd out how many feet of road and sidewalk and water and sewer, et cetera. But to put it in here that we've done that, when it specifically states proposed and prospective facilities required in paren 4. So I won't belabor the point because I've seen little, if any, traction from this commission so far. And I'm having to see if you even discussed it individually, you know? So I've requested the emails to that effect, but I'm shocked that no matter how many times I belabor these points, they don't even get discussed. So.
All right. There
So,
aren't
so
any
it's
more.
just if we have no additional questions, we just need to move on this to send it forward, or what's the next step?
Yeah, we would just need a motion to accept the required report.
Okay, whether it's required or not, I move to accept the report as put together and reviewed by the committee.
The whole package in one thing.
Yeah, with Sean, the typo that Sean identified fixed, right? Yeah.
They don't want things.
Does anyone want to second that?
This is still.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
I
Aye.
Great. Okay, and then next is voting to warn our planning commission public hearing.
All right, so I will take a they move everything around on me.
Hey, Mike, I have one question about this city plan stuff on the website as it is now, that everything has a storyboard PDF link except for land use. That is still, at least what I'm looking at, is.
Yeah, I'll have to see
When-
what's on.
Doesn't
here.
exist.
Yeah. So if you go to the city website, currently the way this is laid out, you can scroll down and there's the city plan 2025. And this is the one you guys have been looking at. This goes to kind of the city page, which had all the pieces. And this is what you were referring to. What we have for the landing page is now this. So when you click on that box that was on the main page, tomorrow morning, it will take you to this site. Which is the welcome. This is the city plan. We will have in this spot here, and we'll have it prepared, and because we can't make any changes until once the warning goes out, which it will go out on Thursday, we can't make any more changes. So this video is going to be an instructional video on how to navigate and kind of get the most out of the new plan, where to find what you're looking for, and some tricks to maximize your experience with the plan. So we'll have that video put together, but it won't be here for the 5 weeks up to the plan, up to the public hearing, because we can't make the change until the public hearing, but it'll be ready as soon as we hit the public hearing. You guys can vote to add it in. So this page goes through a little bit why you need the plan, how is it developed, the regional impacts, and thank you from me, and acknowledgement to the plan. So up top, so we've got a welcome, we've got plan chapters, and this should look similar to the other one. So again, we've got all the 12 chapters all listed. Each one of the chapters, you've got land use, you have a story map, a PDF, and an implementation plan. And it's possible this link does not, nope, that's the one that's still, let me go back. So that is going to be there are 3 items that if you vote tonight to set the date for the public hearing, there are going to be 3 items that I'll ask you for. I would like to do the first 2. We can do all 3. After that, the document can't change. We're not changing any of the words in the next 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday. The issues we have, and we identified them today, and I mentioned them to you, but I'll mention them in because we're on in the meeting now. For anyone who's watching, is the implementation plans. When they ended up in this format, ended up really big, and so we're going to go through and simply replace them with lower resolution. They look identical. I mean, we look at them, but for some reason, when they're in this format, the implementation plans are like 60 megabytes, but we can save them down to about 600 kilobytes, and they look just the same. We just have to go through and save them in a web-based PDF and just switch them out. So they're going to look identically. Right now, it would just take you a long time to open this implementation plan, whereas it'll open in a snap in a day if you guys are okay with me making that change after this meeting. The second thing is, as was pointed out, the PDF to land use, because we needed to finish the story map, you then have to convert the land use plan, this land use plan, into a PDF, which if you look at all the buttons on the side here, each one of these buttons has to get that map created and inserted in. So it takes a long time to build this PDF. So we will build that one out and then insert that document in. But just to give you an idea of what these PDFs look like, open the housing PDF. I'll go up to the top. Sorry, it opened in the middle. So it looks very much similar to the site you have, except this is something that could get printed out. Because this is a PDF document, if somebody wanted to just go and get a document and print it out, they can do that. All the words are identical. All the pictures have been reinserted in their right place, but you can see there are a number of maps. So we put the maps back in there, but they're not dynamic maps anymore. They're just static maps. But if somebody wants to have this as a PDF document, that's what's going to end up being the difference. It's a good variety of housing unit types, and the residential only are in orange. The teal colored ones are mixed use buildings, so you still see them, you just can't zoom in on them. So this is what the PDF plan looks like, so people could print it out. All the words are there for each one of the chapters. So just so people are aware, that is what the PDF is, but land use isn't there. Transportation, we added one new layer, so we have to add one more map to transportation. This is here. It looks good. It's pretty close, but like we said, we added one piece in here, and because of that, we've got to go and redo the PDF because of one extra map. So we'll go through and do that to any of them that needed that, because we had one more transportation and community services. There was a change of a picture, so we've got to redo the PDF on community services. Again, all the words are staying the same. Nothing is changing word-wise. And certainly nothing is changing in the story map. We're just taking the story map and converting it to a PDF. So that way it can be attached. So those were two. The last piece, if we go back up to the top, we'll see there's additional resources, and we have not populated additional resources. So two things can happen. This is really not, it's not anything that's required. We wanted to go in here and insert pieces, which we can also just catalog and get ready. And then after the public hearing on the 24th, we can vote to add in. I'll give you a list of all the ones we're going to add in, and we can add them in. Otherwise, we could add in some additional resources if people wanted those added in, but we have some plans for different things we want, and we'll go through, like being able to have an actual link in here to the Country Club Road plan, or to the Complete Streets plan, or to various housing reports that might be done. So we can just have a set of additional resources. So if somebody wants to learn a little bit more, they don't have to go back to the city plan or go back somewhere else. There'll be links in here to those different resources. So that's a bit of my summary of where the plan is at. But the big thing is, if you're coming and you're looking and you want to review the plan, you want to learn what's going on, the plan works in two ways. We have a story map for each chapter, and I'm not going to use that one. I'll use economic development, which we just went through and showed for anyone who's new and hasn't seen any of these before. There's a discussion, plan, context, synergies. How does, in this case, economic development relate to other chapters? Then we have an implementation summary, and we have a who's involved. So this website will give you an idea of a general understanding, that 50,000-foot view of economic development. What are the issues? What are our goals? What are we trying to do? To get down to the details of the very specific, what are we going to do? That is what the implementation plan is for. And so the implementation plan has aspirations. In this case, there are two aspirations, and has some goals. In this case, there are 6 goals for economic development. And then there are sets of strategies. And so there's, in this case, well, I'll just take the first one: renew the tax increment finance program. So then there's a description. What is a tax increment finance program? There's a little brief description of what it is, what priority it is. It's a high priority. It has a high cost. Implements goals 5 and 6. So you can go back and see it's implementing these 2 goals over here: improving our building stock to make it more flexible, efficient, well-maintained, maintain and improve the quality of our supply of our utilities and facilities, and to maintain and improve our sense of place and the quality of our public built infrastructure. So that's why you have the TIF infrastructure, the TIF financing program here. In economic development, TIF can be used in a number of places. This is how it's used for economic development, and so on and so forth. And there's a whole set of various policies. And actually this one has 2 pages, so has a second set of pages over here. Continue designated downtown, expand the city and tourism marketing program, continue the policy on efficient and predictable regulations. So there's a number of items in here that various boards, commissions, departments would undertake over the next 8 years. And these are hopefully the goal when this was initiated, when this was started, and what we still hope to do is that every year the city council develops a strategic plan of what specific items they want to start to undertake for this year or for the next year, for the next 2 or 3 years. And the hope is that there would be an opportunity, or that there would be the initiative to go through and look at what's in our city plan to help guide those future strategic plans. So as projects are finished, we can look to the strategic plan for guidance. These also fit into the ability when you're applying for grants or other things. These are all opportunities to go through and say, this is a priority. See if there's a project. This one doesn't have any projects, I don't think. But if you've got a project that sometimes we'll get a grant. Oh, here's a project: investigate opportunities for a new hotel and or parking garage project. So if we had the opportunity to apply for economic development funds for to help with a new hotel or parking garage project, we can literally cite it. It's in our city plan as the goal that it is one of the goals identified in the plan. So I will leave that there. So those are the 2 main pieces. You'll see there are 12 chapters: utilities and facilities, economic, historic, resilience, energy, arts and culture, natural resources, transportation, public safety, community services. So those are all the chapters for anyone who is not aware of them. So.
Kind of thinking through what you just showed, super helpful, like how it's coming along. Would it be beneficial or necessary to somewhere on the website indicate that it is in a draft format, or that the meetings are coming up? Just for clarity, I know you're talking about redoing the PDFs. I don't know if it's worth redoing all of the different chapters with the draft watermark in the PDF format, but just some way to indicate to the public that this isn't a final thing. And I don't know the best way to do that, a banner on the website or somehow indicating some other way.
That's a good point. I will work with Nick, and we will definitely get something. It'll probably be on that first landing page. We'll see whether a banner is the most approach, or just putting in some text that goes right at the top to go through and say, this is a draft planning public hearing scheduled for
Yes.
X date.
Idea of sticky banner.
Yeah.
Even when they scroll down, their eyes will always see that public hearings are upcoming, you know, so if they like have a reaction, the answer is right there. They can come to the public hearing.
Yep, that's a good point.
Does the city have, do you all have access to this for editing, or is it really?
Yes, we got access to it last night. It was delivered to us.
Okay.
So that's what the last 24 hours of chaos has been in my office.
So prior to that, this was all SE Group pulling it all together.
Yeah.
And now have they handed over the reins to?
Yep.
Are they still involved, or?
We can ask them questions. They can certainly help us out if there are technical issues, but for the most
mostly
part, it's especially considering Nick is just, he's really doing a great job.
Yeah.
So as soon as he got it, there's, I don't know if anyone had the opportunity to look at it this morning compared to what it looks like right now. He built this stuff out really fast. So, because there was quite a few pieces that were missing this morning that we were able to close up. Again, the only thing that was missing was the storyboard PDFs for those couple of boards. And then loading the low res implementation plans are the only 2 critical pieces. And then we can like we said, we'll probably make a list of additional resources that we'll just give you at the public hearing to go through and say the staff recommends loading these into the additional resources. And here's a list of the items that we would load, and you guys say yes. And then we can plug them in.
With how this process is going, clearly there's still editing that's being done on it right now. With what we're doing tonight, is there continued opportunity for editing or no?
It depends how you guys phrase the motion to set the public hearing. So if you guys set the public hearing and said, we're going to set the public hearing for X date, and direct the staff not to make changes, then it's what you see right here, right now, and we won't make any more changes. It's just, this is your document. If you guys say, set the public hearing date for this, I have to warn it 30 days in advance. So the assumption has been that we're trying to shoot for March 24th because I have to have a 30-day notice. So that means I've got to get this out this Thursday, 2 days from now.
Mm-hmm.
Next Monday would be the 24th. We'd be all set, except that I wouldn't have enough time to get it out to meet the 30-day deadline. So that's why if we have it today, we can get it out. Then we can still, if there's authorized to say, make these 2 sets of changes, the low res in the storyboards, and then warn it, then I'll make those changes before sending out the notice. But text doesn't change. And then again, for you or for anyone in the public or for anybody, this is a draft plan. And for the next 5 weeks, it will be a draft plan with the Planning Commission public hearing coming up. And you guys can make any changes after that meeting. Everything is still open for change. Nothing is set down. This is just putting down the marker that says we're starting the public hearing process. It just takes 5 weeks to get it warned. So.
Do we have to hold another public hearing if we make additional edits after the initial?
Legally, no, you don't have to you don't have to warn a second public hearing. You guys can have as many public hearings as you want. You're required to have one. You're not required to have another one if you make a change. That requirement applies to city council, and the qualifier on that is substantial change or substantive change.
Okay.
So they can go through and say, oh, there's a typo on this page and we're going to adopt the plan with that change. But if they make anything that changes policy, then it has to go back to the Planning Commission. So you guys can have an opportunity to provide comment and send it back to them before they could adopt it. So that's the really big process, but so no, if you make a lot of changes, like loading a lot of additional resources, again, I don't think additional resources are changing much. It's more just for the benefit of the consumer of the document. It's not changing what the policies are in the document. And you did receive, I did forward to you, for anyone who didn't see it, the comments from Kate on the energy. So I told her it's unlikely we would be voting on or having any conversation on those tonight. So we'll put those in the queue for, we can talk about them next Monday and have a conversation. We just can't make a motion to make those changes, but we can certainly go through and say, all right, we've had a good conversation, and we'll make a motion at a later date to actually amend the document. So. Oh, so the staff recommendation regarding warning the public hearing is that we warn the public hearing for March 24th, 2025. And that would be my request. We can set it anytime, that date or later.
I still like that plan for what it's worth.
Is there any reason not to?
Well, I think it would depend on, I mean, you said that there's been a lot of work that's being done on it today, currently. I think that if the planning department feels like it's in good shape to be able to go forward with that.
Yeah,
That's my biggest-
I would have canceled tonight's meeting if I didn't think that we had gotten there. All of the substantial changes, all of the things that were kind of in the required report that we were like, oh, here's, we've got to have that trails map in the transportation plan. And we had it there and we waiting for it to just literally get inserted into the plan.
Yeah.
Well, what you have as a document, what you have as your required report, they all match up. All the pieces are all there. And for the most part, most of it has been there for the past couple of weeks. It's just been on the city website in separate pieces. It's now been put together into the document. So yes, I'm very comfortable with that, with those two qualifiers, the low res implementation plan and the final storyboard PDF for 3 or 4 chapters. And if there's a request, we can certainly go through. Stephen has mentioned that wanting a singular storyboard PDF. I could certainly compile all the storyboard PDFs into a single storyboard PDF and put that into the additional resources. If you guys wanted me to do that before Thursday, because that doesn't take that long to stick them all together. That's up to you guys, what your directions are to me.
Wouldn't that create another massive file? Because now you're reducing them to like 6 megabytes each.
Those are the implementation boards. So this is just the storyboards. So this, well, the PDFs are going to keep getting smaller, but those are still there. So if you wanted to see the economic development, it is PDF. You just click on it and it opens as a PDF. The storyboards don't open as PDFs. They open as
Right. But
as storyboards. And then if you hit print, they come out all wacky.
but the PDFs within the storyboard PDFs, like what you can print out, how big are those PDFs? And if we had 10 of them combined into one file?
We're going to go through and do the same thing, the low res, and we assume that it's going to make them significantly smaller. So they could be downloaded as a single file. And, if they can't, then, it'll certainly be a document. The question will be how big it is.
Right.
I mean, with all the pictures and all the embed maps and everything else, but.
Again, that seems fine and reasonable to do, One person wants it, probably more than one person would find it useful. And if it's not a big lift and doesn't derail, warning the public, then I say, let's do it.
All right, so I will add that into doing the final PDF of a couple of boards and then do the full PDF, and we'll add that to additional resources. That'll be the only thing that will be added to additional resources at this time.
So do we feel ready to vote?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, you just need a motion to warn it?
Just need a motion to warn.
Yeah, I make a motion to warn the public hearing for the 24th.
24th of March.
Yes, correct. Sorry.
And I will second that.
Thank you.
And I'll just go and add, there's with the understanding that I'll make those two sets of changes.
Mhm.
Okay. That's Aaron and Tim with the motion.
All those in favor?
I
I
Okay, this-
Yeah, what code pattern did you use? Black local power? Okay.
All right. Any opposed?
Oh, yeah. Am I supposed to ask that? Any opposed?
Yes.
Okay. Any opposed?
All right.
Okay.
So now we just have the general business for anything not on the agenda. And I see we have Steve, and I saw we also had Jim. Oh, looks like he's left. So Jim Sheridan was on. He's running for council. So he had been on for a couple minutes.
Just to get it on the record, I'm going to reiterate that public participation is too deficient to call this a plan. The web format doesn't work for people who aren't going to spend hours scrolling and studying and learn how to Zoom. I know a lot of old folks, they're not even going to touch the plan on the web. So unless you've got a printed document, you're not going to even have their willingness to read it. The ambivalence or the negligence of you as counselors to address the issues that I've raised repeatedly regarding the statutory requirements, regarding the omissions in that letter y'all just approved tonight, it's got your name on it. It says it comes from the Planning Commission, and you're attesting to the completeness of that, when it's clear that had you spent any time with it, it's not complete. And I don't know, I can see why people won't participate, because it's a waste of their time. The way you've demonstrated handling the comments that I've brought and Kim Chaney has brought has proven it's a waste of time. It falls on deaf ears. So you've got a corrupted process here, and you've got a deficient plan, and it's likely not going to get approved to the point where it can support a growth center application. But you have been forewarned, and just the irony of having had two public input sessions scheduled in the last two meetings, and none of the documents were available. And here you are now scheduling the hearing still without a public input session and still no documents available. It's just a farce. It really is. And I'll encourage Jim Sheridan to watch the public comment and make it going.
All right. That just leaves us with the final item.
What is the final item?
Motion to adjourn.
We don't have minutes today?
No, I didn't put being a special meeting, I didn't put the minutes in.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Aaron.
I'll second.
Maria.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?